A little bit over a week ago, I dropped a video on the Texans offensive line and I gave my opinions on how good I think they would realistically be. Well, today we're doing that again, but with the running back position. This was the video that was supposed to come out last Friday, but you had people asking me about the Deshaun Watson 3-year contract situation, so I had to address that first. But today we are going to talk about the running back situation. Now, let me just say this off the start. I haven't been too comfortable with the running back situation since 2015 with Arian Foster. Even when we got Lamar Miller in 2016, I was still hesitant to be too excited about it because I didn't think Lamar Miller was all that. And, last year, I didn't like that Lamar Miller was our pretty much only running back because Foreman was a complete question mark. Then he ended up getting cut. And then, we traded for Duke Johnson. So I was a little bit happy. And then Lamar Miller went down. And I was like, oh my God, the running back situation sucks. But the Texans somehow managed to get something out of Carlos Hyde. But I mean, even then, if you told me that Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson were going to be our two running backs going into 2019, I still would have been unhappy. And, this year, it's a little better, but I still wouldn't say I'm extremely satisfied with the running back position. I mean, our starting running back is David Johnson. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. David Johnson is washed up. I think he is now. Some people think he's going to do great with us. And that's fine. We don't know what's going to happen. That's why the games are played. But personally, I'm not too huge on David Johnson. Now, I will say this. I do like David Johnson more than any running back we've had starting since Arian Foster. But, I mean, when that list of running backs includes Alfred Blue, Lamar Miller, and Carlos Hyde, that's not really saying much. I feel like that's saying more about the quality of running backs we've had from, since Arian Foster went to Miami and then retired till now. But, I mean, you can take it how you want to take it. He's better than anything we've had, in my opinion. And even though I'm not too high on David Johnson, I do think he brings more to the offense than Carlos Hyde did last year, just simply based on the fact that David Johnson is a receiving threat, while Carlos Hyde was just there to run the ball. So, last year, if you saw Carlos Hyde in there, you kind of knew, they're going to run the ball. If you saw Duke Johnson in there, well, it's going to be a passing play. This year, defenses can't key in on that because David Johnson is a receiving threat and a very good receiving threat at that, even at this point in his career, and I guess a running threat as well. Now, for David Johnson, like I said, not too high on him, but I do see him having over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. The key word right there. From scrimmage, meaning all around, rushing and receiving. And I feel like he'll have around 800 rushing yards and about 400 receiving yards, and I'll say around 7 total touchdowns receiving and rushing. Now, as for Duke Johnson, I absolutely love Duke Johnson as a change of pace back. And Duke Johnson, like David Johnson, he's a running threat and a receiving threat, but I feel like Duke Johnson can't be a lead back. I don't think he has the frame or he's built to carry the ball, touch the ball 20 plus times a game for 16 games. That's why we got David Johnson. That's why we tried to pay Carlos Hyde, because Duke Johnson, I don't think, is that every down back. Now, he can definitely be a 12 to 15 touch a game type of back, a change of pace kind of back, and I am very, very comfortable with Duke Johnson being our second running back. I think him and David Johnson together can make a very deadly 1-2 punch. And I mean, just imagine this. Like, what are defenses going to do in a formation? You know, I don't care about the receivers you have out there or the tight end, but say you have both David and Duke Johnson in the backfield. What are you going to do? Like, there is no linebacker, well, there's a few linebackers, like extremely athletic linebackers out there that maybe can cover one, but name me a team that has two linebackers on the same team that can cover both David Johnson and Duke Johnson out of the backfield on the same play. You know, like, there is no team that has that. And not only that, you have to account for the running threat. Like, what if it's a play action? So they fake it to, I don't know, David Johnson. They fake hand it off to him, and then the defense bites in, and you're already beat because, you know, their linebackers, you know, they bit for the fake, and, you know, you have David Johnson running a route in one direction and Duke Johnson running the other way. Like, these two guys, David and Duke Johnson, they're going to eat up defenses from underneath, because guess what? You have Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks going down the field deep, so the safeties are playing deeper than they would play any other team. So, yeah, like, David Johnson and Duke Johnson, if they're on the field at the same time, it's going to be very hard to stop this Texans offense. This offense is going to be very, very unpredictable when they're on the field at the same time. And now here's a problem about the whole being on the field at the same time. Now, obviously, you're not going to have them out there at the same time every single play. You know, you just can't do that. It would get too predictable. But you also have to consider David Johnson is considered an injury-prone player. So, how many games is he going to miss? How many games is he going to exit? Like, can you trust him to stay healthy all 16 games? So you also have to consider that. And that's one of the reasons why I don't have David Johnson having over 1,000 rushing yards, because I personally do not think he's going to stay healthy for all 16 games. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have a season-ending broken neck injury. I'm not saying that, but, you know, maybe he breaks a fingernail so he misses a game. Maybe he hurts his toe, you know, he misses a couple games here and there. But, you know, I just don't see him playing all 16. If he does play all 16 games, then maybe he does get over 1,000 rushing yards. Now, as far as Duke Johnson goes, I see Duke Johnson having around 500 rushing yards and around maybe 300 receiving yards. I think his receiving numbers are going to take a small dip because of David Johnson. You know, last year, Duke Johnson was the receiving back. This year, I feel like a little bit more of that's going to go towards David Johnson. He's definitely going to eat into his touches. Now, I still see him having 800 yards from scrimmage, similar to last year. He had like 400 rushing, 400 receiving, if I'm not mistaken. So I see him having similar production. And, you know, all around, our two leading backs are going to have over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, like receiving and rushing combined. Now, it doesn't stop there, though. You have to talk about what's behind them. Like I mentioned earlier, David Johnson, I consider him an injury-prone player, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too as well. What is behind them? Absolutely nothing that is reliable. I mean, some people say Phillips, that running back we picked up from Ole Miss. Can you really trust an undrafted rookie? I know some people will bring up, what about Arian Foster? Well, yeah, I mean, Arian Foster is the exception, not the rule. Just because Arian Foster, was a successful undrafted rookie doesn't mean, this Phillips guy is going to be successful. I know some people are going to say Karan Higdon. Well, same thing. Dude was undrafted. I mean, maybe he can be decent, but he is nothing proven. Then you got Buddy Howell. Buddy Howell, he's the fourth string running back, special teams guy. That's it. He is not our third back. We don't have a third running back. So when or if David gets hurt, Duke Johnson becomes the lead back. We don't have any other running back. That means Duke Johnson's going to be doing everything, and I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, hopefully the Texans can get lucky and some team cuts a decent backup running back and the Texans are able to pick him up after, cut day in preseason. Because as of right now, I am really not too thrilled with this running back group. And like I said, I have David Johnson having 800 rushing yards and Duke Johnson having around 500 rushing yards altogether. Them two combined, that's 1,300 rushing yards. That is not that great. Obviously, Watson's going to contribute another 200, 300 maybe. So that's going to help some, but you would like to see your running backs have more than that. I mean, overall, I guess if I was ranking the Texans running back group, it's probably middle of the pack, but closer to lower half of the league. And some people might even say the Texans have one of the worst running back groups in the NFL. And honestly, I wouldn't really disagree with them because this Texans running back group, I'm not too thrilled about them, honestly. As for receiving backs, David Johnson, Duke Johnson, love them, but I would really like to have a guy who I could actually trust. And I don't mean, Arian Foster, Christian McCaffrey guy, but, just a decent guy. Like Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram isn't anything too spectacular, but he gets the job done over there. But I will say this. I feel like with running backs, especially this day in the NFL, a lot of their success is based off of their offensive line. And if you guys saw my previous video about the offensive line, you guys know I am extremely high on this Texans offensive line. So, hey, if Carlos Hyde, a guy who was considered washed up, done, out of the league, he was on 16 for the past, 3 years. If that guy could come in here and rush for, 1,100, 1,200 yards, then I'm sure David Johnson and Duke Johnson can make something happen. So, even though I'm not too high on the running back group, I think we'll be fine due to our offensive line and, of course, Mr. Deshaun Watson. So, yeah. But overall, if I was just looking at the running backs, I would really like to have someone else behind David and Duke. Do I think our running back group is better than last year's? Absolutely. I like David Johnson more than anyone since Arian Foster, but there's a huge gap between how much I liked Foster and how much I liked David Johnson. Like I said earlier in the video, that says more about the running backs we've had starting since Foster than it does about David Johnson. But, I mean, like I said, middle of the pack. Would really like to bring in another running back in case of injuries. And, yeah, it's pretty much my thoughts on the Texans running back group. Comment down below your own opinions on David Johnson, on Duke Johnson, on Karan Higdon, Buddy Howell, Phillips, and just the whole running back group as a whole. Do you guys feel comfortable with David Johnson being our lead back? Where would you rate this Texans running back group? Rank them league-wise. Some stat predictions for David and Duke Johnson. And yeah, also be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. And click that notification bell so you don't miss another video. And here's a little question as well. Would you guys like to see me drop fantasy football videos as well? I put out a poll on Twitter earlier last week, I believe, and most people said yes, but I'm asking it again here on YouTube. Would you guys like to see me drop fantasy football videos? Oh yeah, and speaking of fantasy football, don't draft David Johnson in fantasy football or Duke Johnson. Trust me, don't draft them. I wouldn't trust either of them. But yeah, would you guys like to see me drop fantasy football videos? And anyways, with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.